All right, welcome back. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Masterful Conversations podcast, where we learn about leadership from the men and women who have served in leadership roles, primarily worshipful master in a regular lodge or free and accepted Masons. I am Brother Matthew Wagstaff, a proud past master of Eureka Lodge number 36, where currently serving as my worshipful master is Brother Jermaine Myers. And I am with
I am Brother Mark Alexander, proud past master of Sons of Kings, Lodge number 123, out of Brooklyn, New York, Kings County, where Brother Kevin Parker serves as our worshipful master.
Absolutely. We both hail from the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. We're currently serving as our Grand Master is most worshipful Darren M. Morden. We have a special guest for us today. We usually talk to the guys, talk to the men, the brothers of the craft, but we have the honor of having another female leader in our craft with us today that we are excited to be with. Before I introduce our guests, we do have a quick disclaimer.
Um, this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions of our own do not reflect the views or opinions of our lodge, Grand Lodge chapter, or Grand Chapter. If you have any particular questions, please consult the proper officer in your respective jurisdiction.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with that, I would love to introduce um, to you all past Grand Worthy Matron Diane J. Smith. She is a member of Red Rose Chapter number 66, Order Eastern Star, Prince Hall affiliated. She served as worthy matron of this chapter in the years 1995 and 1996. So she's not new to this craft here.
Mhm.
She served as Grand Worthy Matron of Eureka Grand Chapter, Prince Hall Order Eastern Star, for 3 terms in 2020, 2021, and in 2022. She also served in other leadership capacities. She is a past illustrious commandress of Medina Court 11. She is a past imperial internal auditor and past imperial treasurer, all of which of the imperial court daughters auxiliary of the ancient Egyptian Arabic order nobles mystic shrine, North and South America, amongst other leadership roles within the craft, both in the past and present. So, with that, Sister Smith, we are happy to have you on the Masterful Conversations podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, gentlemen, brothers. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you so very much for being here. So this show is all about leadership and learning about leadership through your journey. We love to get a little history in it as well. So if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit of a walk down memory lane. Tell us a little bit about your journey into the Order of Eastern Stars. When did you become an Eastern Star? And then talk about your journey to becoming worthy matron of your chapter.
I became an Eastern Star. I remember I joined Red Rose chapter number 66. I was initiated in 1988. And I do remember one of the things that hit me when I was going through my various degrees, um, that these ladies were reciting all this from memory and the words that they were reciting. At the time, I didn't grasp everything. But when I had the opportunity to sit down and digest, I was like, wow, blown away. So I had already knew what point I wanted to do. I wanted to be Esther because that was the point. I just found her to be, her story to be so intriguing and heroic. Um, Later on, during while I was in the chapter, when I came into the chapter, shortly thereafter, member of my chapter, past Grand Worthy Matron Geraldine McMillan Holmes, was then the Grand Worthy Matron. And I was assigned to her as her lady in waiting, and I had no idea what this meant. I had no idea the magnitude of that. I just knew her as Geraldine. I didn't know her as the grand worthy matron of this organization. And all during session, she had me running errands, and I would run to the east, but never once did I turn around and look past me. I would
Mm.
come up to the east, listen to what she has to say, walk back down. And at one point during session, she said something to me, and I remember turning around and I looked out to the grand set chapter room, and I was so awestruck. I think that's the word, at the beauty of all of these dignified Black women dressed so regally in their white. And the room, this is during the time when our sessions were packed. You know,
Back.
we would
Hmm.
really have a full house. And I looked out at the room, and then I looked back at past Grandworthy Matron Geraldine McMillan and was like, wow, she's more than just Geraldine. She's over all of this. I want to grow up and be just like her.
Sure. Wow.
And that is literally what
Mm.
started me on my journey. I was a sponge. I listened to everything. I loved the ritualistic work and wanted to excel. So I did everything, you know, wanted to show my chapter that I was ready for the next step and that I took much pride in my work. Um, I took at the time, and I won't say hazing, the ribbing,
Hmm.
as a newbie, because when I came in, there weren't many sisters my age. You know,
Okay.
in my chapter, the next person older than me was 20 years my age gap.
How old were you
Mm.
when you joined?
I was 30.
Okay.
Okay. And but at the time we didn't have a lot of young sisters. And my chapter
Understood.
was an older, more mature chapter, but
Hmm.
I listened, I watched, I saw that the respect that they had not only within our chapter, but from other chapter members. And I just said, let me listen, they have been here before I got here, and I'm going to listen and hear what they have to say, because I want to follow in these ladies' footsteps. And there, that started my journey. I just did everything. I became a sponge. I was willing to help for any place that someone needed help. You want me to serve food? I'll serve food. You need help setting up a chapter room? I'll set up a chapter room. Do you need help with someone helping you during the degree? Hey, I want to do this. I just was so eager, that, like I said, it was just a thrill for me. So, and it hasn't stopped, quite frankly. I mean, my passion for our organization, I still have as much zeal uh, for and love for our organization than when I first came in. I think perhaps
That's
even
great.
more because I put in the time now, whereas before I was young. I think I put some blood, sweat, and tears into this organization. So, but nonetheless, it has all been worth the journey that I have had being a member of Eureka Grand Chapter. It's been worth it.
Have you
Fantastic.
served all what offices did you serve before you became worthy matron?
Actually, I became worthy matron. I went from conductress directly to worthy matron.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yes, I did. The a woman that was the sister that was there before me,
Hmm.
she left town suddenly, and my chapter said, "Well, we're going to let you go ahead," because we had other members that had already served, and I was the one member that had not had an opportunity to serve. So they put a past matron in
Hmm.
the West to
That's
support me, and they let me do they did not hinder me. My chapter gave me all the support, whatever ideas I came up with. They were big from the big band era. They were at bands at all of their fairs. I
mm,
wanted some DJ music. I'm from Bronx River Houses, so I'm a hip hop girl. I grew up
mm,
on hip hop. I wanted some music, and they allowed me to do so. Anything that I'd recommended, I had heard in the past, that my chapter was a traveling chapter and they always went places. And so, and had not done so in like 20 or 25 years. And during my administration, I was like, well, why don't we start hanging out again for the weekend? We're going to have a crab fest and we'll go away to Baltimore for the weekend. And during my 2 years, we spent 1 year in Baltimore and 1 year in Massachusetts, but it was a whole weekend event and we had just all kind of good things. And it was great because the older members, it was reminiscent for them. And for me, it was something new.
mm,
Um, I do remember coming back. At the time, I was seeing a gentleman, and I was coming back from a trip, and we all got off the bus. And he said, "I thought you said you were going out with your girlfriends." I said, I am. I'm with my girlfriends. He says, a bunch of old ladies. I was like, watch it, dude. This is my girlfriend. These are my girlfriends. I'm actually with them.
Best
Jonas,
girlfriends you can have,
hey, that's the best girlfriends.
right?
That's exactly. And 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 they've always been my girlfriend. So this is how it is. And as
Mhm.
a matter of fact, I've had the pleasure of being that younger member because they poured all of their knowledge into me. And again, like I said, I was a sponge. I wanted to hear everything you had to say, anything you told me that I was supposed to do to be a better sister, to learn my ritualistic work. They were on to me about making certain that you understand your constitution, not because I told you what the constitution, my interpretation, but so that you know it for yourself. That no one can tell you something wrong because, unfortunately, sometimes our organization, we have folks that have been here for a great long time. We depend on because we know they've been here for a long time, but things have changed, and perhaps those individuals have not changed with the times, so they're not up to the latest of what our Constitution may say, and you may be
Mhm.
misreading or misquoting something, and so therefore you have to be on top of it for yourself. So my members, my older members, my seasoned members in Red Rose chapter, that's what they instilled in me, making certain that you know this work, your constitution, your protocol, all the various resources and books that we work with, that you know those for yourself. And I went to work so I could prove to them that I know this.
That's
And the
very, that's
more
very.
they saw that I was into it, the more they fed me. They knew I was hungry, so they fed me. They kept pouring into me, and it helped me and aided me through my journey here in the organization, in the order.
Thank you for that. That's one thing I wish I would see more of is like that hunger and that thirst um to actually pursue the information and sit down, listen to it, and do something with it versus like waiting or just getting discouraged because you aren't getting fed in the way in which you want to get fed. But I digress on that one. I got a couple of clarifying questions I wanted to ask you as well. Red Rose chapter, where is that located specifically?
We're located in the first district in the Grand East. We meet the first Saturday of every month. And my worthy matron is worthy matron Maria Ellis. And worthy matron Ellis has been our worthy matron for almost 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. All
She
right. All
has
right.
support.
So you
Yes.
worthy matrons that have been there 5 years. You got some catching up to do right now. So just know you got a little bit of time. Okay. And so for those who don't know, the first district in New York is in Harlem. Is located in Harlem. So
Hmm.
just so everyone knows that. Um, Also, do you remember who the worthy matron was when you came into the craft in '88?
Yes, I do. The worthy matron was Maud Williams in
Maud Williams.
1988. Maud Williams. She was as she is the worthy matron. Uh, that initiated me. She's the worthy matron that assigned me to be past Grand Matron Geraldine McMillan's lady in waiting.
Excellent. Excellent. And then my other question is around size of your chapter. So we like to get a sense of scale. So when you joined the chapter in '88, roughly how many sisters were actively involved in the chapter? And then when you were a worthy matron, about how many members roughly, were on your roles, approximately?
Approximately, when I joined the chapter, there were probably about 70 sisters in Red Rose chapter. Those that actively came out, approximately 35 to 40 at the time.
Mm,
Um,
that's decent.
Stayed consistent. Those numbers stayed pretty consistent during the time I was worthy matron, and for a couple of years thereafter. Um, but again, the age difference, because we were just one of those chapters that are actually aging out.
Hmm.
So we were consistent. Unfortunately, now today, when I say aging out, we struggle sometimes to get a chapter open. So
Hmm.
sometimes we have to struggle, and this is, it's not how far we've come. It's what's wrong that we know in this instance, our chapter, the majority of our members have aged out. And because also too, during the time we relied on bloodline, and if our members are aging out, we're not bringing a new
Yeah.
bloodline in. So we're kind of
Hmm.
in a catch 22 right now. That's where my
Yeah,
chapter is. So that's where we're at.
got it. Okay.
Did you come in by yourself or do you have other sisters that joined with you?
I came in by myself. I had to,
Okay.
because of bloodline during the time, it was bloodline. So I had to wait
Hmm.
for my brother to join first. And
Okay.
also during that time,
Mm-hmm.
and if I recollect correctly, he had to go through the Scottish Rite, one of the York Rite or Scottish Rite side before I could even be eligible to come in. He had to meet all these other
What?
criteria, I believe, before I was eligible to come in. And so
Mm-hmm.
I annoyed him. Oh, I annoyed him so much. When are you going to join? When are you going to join? Because it's something I had always wanted to do. So when my brother told me one day, okay, I'm a member of Fidelity Lodge number
Fidelity.
97.
Listen.
Yeah, and our sister chapter is Red Rose, and that's the chapter that you're going to get a petition to. And then years later, when I was going into the East, I asked my mom if she would then come join the chapter because I just wanted her to be there and to take that journey with me. And she did.
Nice.
Up until she was a member of the chapter, up until her death. Not she never had any aspirations to move or to be a grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
She was just a supporter bee. She was just to support my brother and myself, and it also gave me an opportunity to boss her around because as worthy matron, she had to do what I had to say. So, and she reminded me the day I came out of the East, this is over, young lady.
Oh my God, you gotta love it. You gotta love
Hilarious.
it. Would you? Would you?
I had the pleasure to talking with your brother during Grand Law session. That's the first real discussion I had with him. So he was cool. Yeah,
Yes, he's a
really.
character.
Yeah,
Would you? Would
Yeah.
you
definitely.
do us the pleasure of just saying the names of your mother
And
and
your
your
brother.
brother, just so we can keep that?
Okay, yes. My brother is past master James E. Smith, excuse me, James E. Jiggets Jr. My
Mm,
husband is James E. Smith Jr., and my husband is James E. Jiggets Jr. My nephew is also a brother, James E. Jiggets the third, Fidelity Lodge number 97. And my mother was Joan E. Jiggets of Red Rose Chapter, Sister Joan E. Jiggets of Red Rose Chapter number 66.
Thank you for
nice.
that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice. One of the staple questions we have on the show is, what do you consider as effective leadership?
Well, I'd like to, if I may, and this is a quote that I had. I'm a pack rat, so all during my time is going along, I just started collecting things, the things that I wanted to have a part of my administration or notes or this conversation. But this
Mm-hmm.
is something I had come across that a most worshipful past Grand Master of the state of New Jersey stated what a leader is. A leader, a person who provides direction, inspiration, guidance, courage, passion, confidence, commitment, and ambition. They nurture the strength and talents of their people, build teams committed to achieving the common goal. And those were the words of the most worshipful past Grand Master Shelton
And
Prescott.
Prescott. I figured that.
Okay. And I added
He was on
that
the show,
leadership.
past show member.
And
Mm-hmm.
I first heard those words, read it. It was a Facebook post. I was like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
that sums up everything I'm feeling, and that's my focus where I'm from. But in addition to, I also think that leadership is about leading by example, but not by title. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
so and when I say that, I believe that leadership, to the part of nurturing, it's building your team up, supporting your team. I have always been of the mind that, especially once I arrived at the station of Grand Worthy Matron, where do I go from here? The only thing that I can leave behind is a legacy. And will that legacy be those that I've touched on my team, the future leaders? So, am I going to make certain that they are properly prepared and have all of the resources that they need during my administration? That was my goal and my management style with working with my team. So I
Yeah.
just want I made it, be it if I felt an individual on my team may have been weak in one area, and you know what, I think that you need to cheer this because I knew that in the long run that would give them some experience and help them to
No,
hone
no
in
doubt.
on some of those talents they may not have. First they would be like, I really don't want to, but I think that's why I really think that you should do it. I think that once you're challenged and you get over this challenge, you're going to be better at it. And 9 times out of 10, everyone has walked away from, and I could say from the administration of that was on my cabinet, they're doing fantastic things.
Excellent.
And I
Yeah,
Excellent.
see them as our future leaders, and they're strong leaders.
that's a great way to do it. I mean, most of the time we try to fit people that know what they're doing, so we put them in what they're usually doing. Now, what you're doing is like guiding them into make you see their weaknesses. Like, let me put you over here. I might even have somebody to work with you, whatever, to get you stronger. And that's definitely something that a leader should do. And yeah, that's nice. I
And
like
it's top down management, because
that.
so often do and I dealt with my cabinet, because this is a business, as far as from we are a fraternal organization. But when you get to the position of Grand Worthy Matron, Grand Worthy Patron, Most Worshipful Grand Master, you are now in charge of the entire organization. This is now a business. So I
Mhm.
take it up. It's how I do with my team at work. It's a top down approach. I make certain that first, those that are on the top, that they are aware of what their responsibilities are, and those that are under them, and then making certain that those that are on the bottom, that they are strong enough and they have all the resources and the tools that they need to support the top. So therefore, we don't come collapsing down on one another. So I just try to make certain that both, that not only, and during my time, did I want to make certain that my team, my cabinet, had all the resources, but I also wanted to make certain that our members had what they needed.
Great. Speaking of team and cabinet, who served as your grand worthy patron during your time in the Grandees?
Well, I had for the first 2 years, Marvin G. Williams was Grand Worthy Patron, and he had made a personal decision that he no longer wanted to be Grand Worthy Patron. And then I also had the pleasure of serving in my third year, which typically we only serve 2 years, but due to COVID, my term was extended. The cabinet and the membership allowed me a third year, and that third year I spent with Paul James,
Paul James.
who was our Grand Associate Patron, and then went on to be Grand Worthy Patron. So again, and working with me, he got a little step up, because he got a little on the job training before he was actually ready to do the job. And I tried to make certain that he was aware of everything. And it was a good advantage point for him versus coming in and maybe not knowing all the ins and outs of what's going on or what took place during that previous administration, whereas you were part of that previous administration and now here you are ready to lead. So that's those are the two gentlemen, the two brothers that I had the opportunity to serve with.
Great. And I probably should have asked this a couple of minutes ago, but who was your worthy patron when you were worthy matron?
When I was worthy patron, it was James Feaster of
Mm.
Fidelity Lodge 97. Much older gentleman. He had been, by the time I arrived at Red Rose chapter, Brother Feaster probably had been in the chapter 40 years by then. And he's an old, most of the old timers knew Brother Feaster, and he was such a gentleman and such a good brother. Um, and I did not drive. He went out and said, Worthy Matron, you know what I think I'm going to do for you? Since you don't drive, we need to have you ride in the style. I'm going to get a new white Cadillac just for you. And he did. He didn't get it just for me, but
Yeah.
he made me think that he got it for me. So that's how that was. So yeah, he was a wonderful person to serve with, also because of the knowledge and that he'd been in the organization for so long. And he had served as worthy patron for quite a while before I even got there. So he made my life easy, and he was a good person to guide me during my time as worthy matron.
That's great. And from a leadership perspective, is there any leadership changes? Um, I mean, it was basically 20 years, or it was more than 20 years between the time, well, yeah, more than 20 years between the time you were worthy matron and that engagement with the craft and with the worthy patron to when you were grand worthy matron and interacting with the craft. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the leadership changes or things that you kept as a leader in the order through that transition or throughout that time?
Well, first, let me say I am a proponent. If it is not broken, um, we don't have to fix it. But if it needs to be dusted off, let's review this and go, look at what we need to
Hmm.
do here. So, um, also, I um, I served during COVID-19. So what we quite a bit had been shut down. So what had
Yeah.
transpired in previous administrations and what I envisioned that my administration was going to be was nowhere where it
Mm.
was. So
Mm.
to when you ask leadership style, I had to learn to pivot. I had to pivot because we were in person. Okay,
Mm.
so I had to. make certain that my communication skills, and I had all the open communications for our members because I was not in face to face with them, and to keep the membership engaged. Um, I did again pick up on and save a lot of the little tidbits that I had gathered along the way from my predecessors. But I think that the difference from the 20 years worth between when I was worthy matron and grand worthy matron, um, we did away with bloodline for the most part. Um, um, on one hand, I'm staunch proponent of bloodline because I believe that when you know that you're coming, like my brother brought me in, I brought my mother in. I can't embarrass my family. I have to do right and make my family look good. But when we had folks coming in under just an edict, they had no ties. So therefore, some of the
Social
behavior,
pressure. There was no social pressure. The same social
certainly,
pressure. Yeah.
exactly. So
Mhm.
therefore, you didn't have. So therefore, some folks act a little differently when your mom is not around. You
Mhm.
act a little differently, and I
Mhm.
think that that's taken an effect on Eureka Grand Chapter at least. That's the only one thing I could state that from. But on the flip side, because, for instance, using my chapter, getting back to my chapter again, we're dying off. The only way for my chapters to survive is if we have an edict, because no one's having new babies. All of my chapter members are old. We're not bringing any new members in. I can only have the bloodline that unfortunately has dried up. So therefore, now we do need an edict. But do we cultivate and work with these sisters that come in? That's where I believe leadership has to pay more of a focus on how do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them accountable for their actions and lack thereof? Of that's something that we need to figure out. But for the most part, I've always I believe in my heart that because traditions have passed on. This is why this organization has lasted that long. I do believe in sticking to a great many of our traditions. I do also believe that because time has changed, there are some areas that we need to update. So during COVID, we couldn't meet in person. So I started Zoom meetings so that we could, and that would be unheard of for us to actually have a chapter meeting or a large meeting outside on Zoom. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So we had to figure out what we will be able to show, what we won't, which we will be still talk about during our meetings. So we had to like really go in and say, this is what I'm going to do, and put our thought process on the logistics of how we were going to handle this moving forward. So that's, I mean, I think that's the only thing I could say about from 20 years ago is just I think Bloodline has some pros and cons.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, can you just give like a brief synopsis of what bloodline means? You've it's
As an
implied in
Eastern,
your statements, but I just for people who aren't in the craft who are listening right now, what does bloodline mean?
well, for an Eastern Star, it meant that in order for me to become an Eastern Star, either my father, my brother, my husband, my son, or my widower would have had to be a member in order
Amazing.
for me to be, yes, an Eastern
Mhm.
Star.
What about
And
cousins and uncles?
it was immediate bloodline.
Okay.
So therefore, and unfortunately, see, and also, let's if I can just touch on that subject a little bit, but part of bloodline, and because at the time it was only bloodline, but what happened if a family now, a father, the mother passed away, he took on a new wife,
Mhm.
or the mother, excuse me, the husband passed away, she took on a new husband, he was not a master mason, but yet her son from this new husband wanted to be a master mason, and her son's a master mason, he could not. We were now going to be ripping apart a household. How do we handle that? So that's where, to the certain extent, these edicts started coming in. The most worshipful Grand Master, in conjunction or at the request of the Grand Worthy Matron and Grand Worthy Patron, would say, "Hey, we need a bloodline. We'd like to have an edict to forego the bloodline." But again, it has its pros and cons.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I noticed you mentioned this one thing, the same thing that I remember Lisa mentioned the same thing also. Then working with the elders as far as when you first came in the organization, um just sitting under their tutelage, and that's what actually, I guess, they allowed them to pour into you what I always call the keys to the past master's heart. It's the same thing with past mason. You just follow along with what the current program, you go along with it, do whatever they need, and then they trust you to give you the keys. Do you still see that going on as of now, or like do the younger members come to you to in that type of manner anymore?
And I am, um, yes, I would say I
Mm-hmm.
am honored and flattered
Mm-hmm.
that and somewhat and like wow, like oh like whoa, they like I'm becoming Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm like wow, that they'll want to come and ask me for advice, or will you be my
Mm-hmm.
advisor, or can I run something past you. I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, and this is again when I say your legacy, so maybe
Mm-hmm.
I did do something right. Someone did see that I did something right, that they're willing to ask me to now pour into them. That's the biggest compliment, I think,
Yeah.
because I've always been of the mind that if I pour my knowledge to someone, it does not mean that it's going to reduce anything that I have in me. It's not going to take any of my knowledge away. But what it is
Mm-hmm.
going to do is let a piece of me live on in them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they're going to walk away, and and I'll be like, okay, and then I'd like to then sit back and watch. And she's the new grand secretary, or now she's the new grand worthy matron. And I remember when that young lady, that's legacy. That's what would like. I'm looking forward to now in my sunset of years of being a past grand worthy matron. It's just sitting back and watching those sisters that I've nurtured or tutored or whatever the
Watching the
case might be.
watching the roses
Yeah,
grow, right?
there you go. Exactly. Watch those new rosebuds
I see
coming
what you
in.
did there. I
And
see what you did there, Mark.
yes.
Excellent. I'm curious now, how you show up now as a past grand worthy matron, but also more important, I'm curious like how you showed up as a past worthy matron in terms of your leadership style, to the worthy matrons of Red Rose after you were out of the seat. Do you remember like how you showed up as a past worthy matron?
Well, and again, yes, I do, because part of Bloodline, and also even back then, was starting to bring folks along. Behind me was my sister-in-law, brother Jiggets, the mother of our brother James E. Jiggets the third, uh,
Mm-hmm.
our past Grand Treasurer, and she's now Grand Treasurer Emeritus, Betty Nelson. She served behind me, and behind her was my good friend, Donna Fennell. So I was ready right then and there. And behind them, we all then kept on helping each other and helping each other along the line. So I've always, been there because we only serve in these capacities of worthy matron, worthy bag grand, whatever the case might be. Typically, it's only for a short period of time. And what do you do when you finish with that? You need to make it the best that you can while you're there, so that you can come back down, and you come back down from the east to your members, and they are welcoming you with open arms. Some folks too often, when they get into the East, they alienate their members. Their members don't want to see them when they come out of the East. I wanted to be seen because I also knew that I had further goals. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to make certain. I've always was taught you bring as many people along with you to the party. So when it's time to go home, and you don't have a ride, there's somebody there to give you a ride. So you make certain that you reach down and help some others. So I've continued, and I continue to do so with my worthy matron. And she'll tell you I'm a tough taskmaster. Okay, so if I see she's not come here, worthy matron, let's make sure we doing this right, and
Mm.
she'll be like, okay, worthy your past grand, I know you're watching. Yes, I am, but you have to be there. And I mean, even right now, I came out, I had an opportunity to sit home sit out for 2 years, and grand worthy matron, Marsha Mack, sent out the bat signal and said that she was in need of an interim grand treasurer, and that my grand chapter needed me. And I had told her, as I told all of the members in my cabinet, when you need me, I will be there as long as God gives me breath and strength in my body. So when she sent out the bat signal, I answered, and I served last year. Even though I'm a past grand worthy matron, it's not beneath me to serve again to my in my chapter. So I served as um, interim grand secretary, grand treasurer for the year 24 to 25.
That's great. That's great. I know when past Grant Prescott was on, we talked about him going back into the worshipful master seat as a past grandmaster, and I don't think I've ever heard of a past grandmaster going back to like on the grand line, even as an interim in New York State. It's probably happened somewhere in the country.
I don't
You
think in
probably
New
would know
York
better than I would, or you probably could
State,
find out if that's
Yeah,
not
happened.
in
yeah,
New
yeah.
But
York
I've never heard that
State.
before.
I don't believe so in
Definitely.
New York State, but I
Hmm.
will say that in other jurisdictions, yes, there have been past grands that actually have gone to serve as grand patrons after they've served as a most worshipful grand master.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them do that. A lot of the
Mhm.
past grands, they go into grand secretary spots. That's a
Hmm.
big spot for a lot of past grands throughout the country.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I did. I guess on the women we go into. The women are going to go for the money, so we're going to be on
Yes.
the whoever's on the past grand treasurer side. So.
Amen to that.
Well, we know that leadership isn't always as good. There's some bad and rough spots or whatever. Do you have any um tough spots that you knew that you grew through or helped you learn lessons from as either matron or grand matron?
One was just that the best laid plans. I had my whole 2 years already mapped out down to, I mean, I had it mapped out completely. And
Mm.
COVID said, oh, yeah, really? Well, check this out. So I did not have that in my plans. However, when faced with it, again, I had to learn to pivot and say, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit here, sit on my hands and let this organization die and dry up? Or I'm going to get to work. So I utilized IT. Zoom was as we all know, was a boom back then during COVID. I started Zoom meetings. We had Zoom church service. We recorded our chapter of sorrow and shared it not only with the members of New York State, but we invited members from the other jurisdictions to come in and participate with us. You know, no, any other time we wouldn't have had members from all over the domain joining us. So that was something that was pretty good. I did have, there were obstacles that were put in my way, and I did learn to navigate them. There were times that I had to step back and say, okay, let me just think about this for a few moments and take a deep breath. And now we got to keep pressing forward. Okay, so and I did so. Part of doing so, and there were some times where I was challenged,
Mm,
um, not only by my grand worthy patron, but the most worshipful Grand Master at the time was Walter C. King. But because I did know my Constitution inside out, I did know what my administrative authorities were, my protocol. They had to leave me alone because the lady knows what she's talking about. Well, okay, um, and was it tough sometime having to defend that? Yes, but I was able to do so. And again, because just being properly prepared, and that's what they always tell us is in store, you must be, be properly prepared. So I did do so. Um, did I have to, on many occasions, take a deep breath, smile, and then answer it someone sometimes? Yeah, I did. But it helped me to grow because before I might not if not have might not have responded in that same way, but I had also had to tell myself that, you know, when you want a position that you want to work and to be a leader of people, you know, it's not always your way. So you have to learn to be flexible. Um, you can't always just say what's on your mind. So you have to choose your words wisely,
hmm
you know? And sometimes you have to say, is that a fact, sweetheart? Or I'll take that under advisement because
Yeah.
sometimes it's not an answer for you. So you learn those things. Yes, those are a couple of things that I have learned. And patience. You just have to learn to be patient and know that everyone is not capable of doing the same or have the same passion that you may have. And you have to take that in consideration as a leader. You have to learn to read the room and then know how to respond to those that you're working with or those that you're leading.
Yeah,
Mm,
those are a couple things that resonate with me from what you just shared there. Not putting, not expecting from others what you would do all the time because they aren't you. So it's like, yeah, I would absolutely do it that way. And then no, no, that's not them. You know, they
mm,
have their own style, they're their own human. They have their own strengths. So not putting your expectations or what you would do on somebody else and expecting them to be like another version of you is super important and something that I've had to learn over time. And then one thing recently, do some reflection I've had is the concept of ego comes up a lot in leadership, in the
mm,
craft, in life, in work, professionally. The concept of ego and managing ego, and I thought to myself, one a statement that I have is I can tell how big my ego or someone else's ego is by how easily they get offended or how easily I get offended. And so it was a situation recently where I got in my feelings real quickly about something. I was like, is this ego talking right now or is this like a legit threat? It's not a
mm,
legit threat. This is literally ego right now. Like, why am I even feeling this way right now?
mm.
And so then I had to check myself. But then I noticed it in someone else that I got frustrated by something. I was like, "Ooh, that might be ego talking." So these are certain things that, just from a leadership standpoint, that self-awareness is huge. So it's important to kind of understand that, take that deep breath, like you talked about, being able to be patient, pause, but also thinking about how much of this bubbling up inside of me right now that makes me say I need to pause and I don't need to like jump off the, and hit some. How much of this is ego versus how much of this is like a legit threat or
Mm.
to my livelihood.
Uh,
So that's what came up to me when you were sharing your story.
because I
Mm.
mean, we're human. Everybody sometimes it's you just there's some days it's like, do I want to be grand worthy to Matron today? Whole week can I, can
I
I
need a
just
break
give it
today. Can't
right?
do
Can I just take it a day off? And then
it.
you have to, it's like the U.S. Postal Service, rain, sleet, or snow. This
I
thing's
know.
got to go. Don't you know this, right? Oh, you know, so you just have to push forward. But also too, it is really important that you make people that as a leader, that those that you're leading feel that they're being heard,
Mm,
that they're being respected, but more important, that you value them regardless of what their how small their contribution may be. Because one thing I've learned as just even in management, you can have a person that gives you 10% of their ability, but yet they actually have 125% work that they could be actually supplying you, versus having a person that is giving you 50%, but yet all they have is 120, all they have is 25%, but they're giving you their best effort. Which do
Mhm.
you want? And how do you work with both of those to get them both up to that level? So it's the person that's only giving you a little bit. How do you get more out of that individual? Now, what is it that's hindering you from giving me your all? And for the person that can give you but so much, what can I do to help you give some more here, to help you be better, to contribute more? So that's a balancing act that you have as a manager as well. And yeah, no, I'm not an individual that if it's not my way, it's the highway. No, there are certain things you're going to stay fast to as a manager or as a leader. This the final decision. It rests with me, and this is decision. But you have to, in order for you to be successful, you have to have the support and the input and the buy-in from your team. And the only way is for them to feel that this is not just your decision and your opinion or your idea, but that they have contributed to this, and this is a team idea. That's one thing I absolutely try to just make certain that to build a team. and to make certain that everybody had to buy in to hear everyone's opinion before I made a decision. I made certain that we sat around the table. I gave everybody an opportunity. I'd like to hear what you have to say, what you have to say, and this is what I have to say, and we can talk about it a little bit more, but this is where we're going to land at this, or this is just how this is going to be. And then this is why I'm saying this. And also, when you tell people why, not just this is my way, but you give them a reason why you're feeling, let me explain to you why I'm feeling this way. Again, they may change their mind and you get additional buy-in and they're like, okay, now I see your point of view versus because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
I said
Mhm.
this and I'm feeling this way because in the long run, it's going to benefit us. Boom, boom, boom. Think about this. And then you give them an opportunity to, again, weigh in on it. One way or another, they're going to walk away saying, well, at least she gave me an opportunity. I don't agree with her, but I understand where she's coming from, or I understand why she did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like a couple of things that you just mentioned, particularly or when you talking about explaining why you want to make certain decisions and things like that and letting the people know. I just happened to be listening to a YouTube video recently and they was talking about like mind tricks. And they say like the word because, when you tell people because, they're more willing to help you out. It was like a simple experience of like they did an experiment with people just going to make copies or something like that, and they won't ask to skip to use the copier, and somebody, oh, let me use the copier, and they was reluctant, but then they said, let me use the copy because I gotta make copies. They didn't even say just because they said because I gotta make copies, and people was more willing to get out their way to.
Mm-hmm.
So just that little information them knowing the reason why does it's almost scientifically proven that that might help out. Also, I do like the fact that you mentioned about trying to get more out of people, and that's something that particularly leaders in the craft need to think about when it comes to getting people to come out, because we all have that issue about people not coming out. Because I've seen, I have, as far as I know, I've seen. I have members largest that have larger chapters, whatever, have like 200 members. It's still no like averages no more than like 30, 40 people coming out on a regular.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just that trying to figure out how can, like you said, how can I help you to come out? What can the lodge do, or what can the chapter do to help you to be able to come out would be a great question to give to the members to see how they can get them to come out. Instead of just saying, when you coming out, how come you ain't been coming out? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But and to that point, Mark,
Mhm.
because, for instance, that when I was worthy matron, I said would have the members, so we could have them carpool because a lot of
Mhm.
them lived out in Queens coming in, and a lot of them were getting older.
Yep.
So we started carpooling. So, and Brother Williams, Howie Williams Jr., he
Mhm.
started becoming the chauffeur for a lot of them out there, and then so we get
Mhm.
them all carpool so we can get groups of everyone coming. So I knew if the Williams are coming, I know I got at least 5 people in that car.
There it is.
If I
Mhm.
know, and then the Andersons are coming, I got so many people in that car. I'm gonna have a good meeting here. So
Yeah.
you kind of round them up, and get everybody
Mhm.
together, and that also gets everybody the morale, and everyone's happy. They haven't seen each other since last month, and the chatter in the
Mhm.
car, you get to the meeting. It's just a nice start for everything. So you try to think of different ways to get folks out and to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that carpooling is a lost art in this
Mhm.
craft here, and the that personal touch, that camaraderie before you get to the meeting, coming together, going to pick up a brother, going to pick up a sister, bringing them to the lodge. We have a brother in our lodge at Eureka though. I gotta shout him out, brother Anthony Cowart. He grabs some of the past masters and older, a past master and another older brother. Whenever he's in the lodge meet, those two brothers are with him. It might be because they are also his Omega brothers, but they also are members of the lodge. And he brings them, so we know it's three brothers coming when brother Coart is in the room. So shout out to him for all that he does to get brothers in the craft into the lodge. I want to ask you a question though about some, you used the word manager, and I want to know, do you believe there's a difference between a manager and a leader?
Yes. Hmm. Because you could just manage people, sort of like like you're managing a herd of cows, right? You could
Mhm.
just manage them in that corral, or do you lead them out to the pasture for better, for something better? So yeah, there's a difference between a leader and a manager, in my opinion. Absolutely, absolutely. In the work, typically you are managing. Okay, you're managing the work that they do, but you're managing your team, which means then you're a leader. Okay, so there's a difference. The work that they do, I think of that as managing the work. To get the people to do the work, that's leading.
Mm. So manage the work, lead the people.
That's it. There
Yep.
you go. That's
Mm.
exactly, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, I like that. I know we don't have the opportunity to have too many sisters on here. You did mention a few sisters that helped you during your journey. Do you have any more sisters that maybe have mentored you during your years that you might want to mention by name? So we have that for the
Well,
records, for the history, please.
for the history, for the records, in the absence of my mother, and when I say to you, a sister, big sister, second mother, who has poured all of her knowledge into me and has been there, Ruth, past matron Ruth Mayfield Ellaby, a Fidelity Law, chapter
Mm-hmm.
number 54.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Phyllis Johnson, a 54, of Fidelity 54 as well. Those are sisters there that really helped me. When I think of here in our first district, Leela, and they're no longer with us, but there was the
Mm-hmm.
Leela Barlows. Leela made certain if Leela Barlow said that you knew your ritualistic work, you
Mm-hmm.
were on point. When you
Nice.
got her seal of approval, you knew you were the girl.
Leila
You
Barlow.
Leela Barlow,
Mm-hmm.
she made certain. And again, I say Geraldine McMillan. The women of that era were they carried such a different. They were just a different breed of women.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I, I, and, uh, and I look at our today women that our sisters of today. My our grandworthy matron and I, we have been friends for close to 40 years. We have a long history together in this organization. I admire her. I'm very proud of her, the work that she's doing. She's, even though she has come up against a lot of obstacles, she's still, keeping moving forward, which I think is important because you just can't give up. You can't just throw your hands up in the air. Sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
is to being a leader like you've heard me, folks have heard me say, heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's not all roses. Okay, it is not all roses. There are some days when it's like, wow, this is a volunteer and I volunteered for this. Wow. you know, you're
Sound
like,
familiar, Mark?
what? Yeah, like I did this, huh? I wanted to do this. I just went and just had to do this now, didn't you? But you uh Elsie Macklemore, as far as a past grand lecturer, Lisa Horton. I am proud to have walked in Lisa's footsteps, followed in her footsteps. Um, Solomon Wallace.
Solomon Wallace.
Solid was, he mentored
Mm-hmm.
me, he took me under his wing. From the Grand Lodge, Bernard Holly,
On Harlem.
Ike
Mm-hmm.
Reed.
Right.
Those are the gentlemen, Joseph Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, those are the old timers that, again, I was a younger, but these are the old timers that were my friends, my folks that I kept company with and learned from. So yeah, those are that's yes.
Yeah, cool.
Good list.
Yeah, that's a good list. I mean, anybody that wasn't mentioned, brain the brain, not the heart. We know that.
And that's pretty much
And if
because
you get offended, check your ego. If you get offended,
that
Exactly.
check your
that's
ego.
there you go.
Like
Touche,
exactly.
touche, touche.
You know who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
um, I would want to ask you one of like a famous kind of question that we like to ask too before we wrap up. So, knowing what you know about yourself now, knowing what you know about the state of the order in 2025, and also knowing what you know about Red Rose chapter in this day and age. If you were to go back as worthy matron of Red Rose chapter number 66 in 2026, what would be one or two things that you would focus on as worthy matron?
As worthy matron, the first thing I would focus on is really requesting our leadership, our grand matron and grand worthy patron, to really look at bloodline edict and what we can do for chapters that have the bloodline is dried up. because in order for me to be a worthy matron, I need to have members in my chapter. And right now, I I won't have any. My chapter might have to give up their charter, which would
Mm,
be so hurtful.
mm,
That would be my main goal. And then number two is once I have that edict, is going out and getting good sisters, not just dues paying members, not just so we can get pay the bills, but women that I believe have the same passion. And I'm going to use the word integrity, okay? Because that I think again getting to bloodline, what was what you had to make certain that you were of good integrity. You didn't want, even though this may not be my daughter, but I don't want you to bring someone here that would still shame me and my good name. So I would want to make certain that I'm bringing good young ladies, in here to help to rebuild my chapter and to become viable members of Eureka Grand Chapter. Those would be the two main things I think I would, if I was to go back, that's what I would be focusing on as a worthy matron again.
it's good. Good legacy builders right there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I love the fact that you mentioned integrity. I mean, particularly that's a key word for Masons anyway. That's definitely one of our main words. And being an order in the branch from Freemasonry, it definitely the sisters should also be of that same ilk of having that same integrity. That was the reason with the bloodline thing or whatever. But yeah, they branch off the same with things. So that was definitely some good things. Past Grand Worthy Matron, we definitely thank you for joining us on our episode this evening. You have graced us with your presence and examples and gave us some jewels to go home with, some
Mm,
things to think about and to apply. Things like such as being flexible and being ready to pivot is important because as a leader, you never know what's going to come up. So you have to be able to move with the change and change you have to. Leading by example and not by title. So anybody can be a leader. You don't have to necessarily have the title is important. Knowing your members' weaknesses and helping them become stronger. That's something you should do as a leader. You're not a manager, you're a leader. So you're going to lead the people to become better. That's definitely good. Being patient, learning how to read the room, and knowing how to respond to people is very important. Um, Check yourself when you have to. Like you said, take a second, pause, breathe if you need to, but do that to make sure you don't offend nobody. And also, very important, leaders must make sure their members are heard, respected, feel respected, and valued. So they will continue to give into the organization if you have those three things. So thank you for those lessons from Past Grand, and we definitely appreciate you.
I appreciate
absolutely.
both of you brothers. And this has been a unique experience for me. This is my first podcast,
Hey,
and
hey, hey.
I've enjoyed this conversation. And I just want to thank you. And I'm looking forward. I do hope that you would bring more sisters on,
Yep.
not just from the grand chapter, from grand level, but perhaps from the
Mhm.
worthy matrons as well. And that would again help to inspire others because I think that I was so excited, and I did share it with everyone that I was going
Mhm.
to do. And I think that if other sisters see it, perhaps they too would want to join you and just let you know their feelings or their experience as leaders, because we do have quite a lot of leaders out there. A lot of them don't know it yet. Some still need to be developed, but we do have a lot of great leaders in this organization. So thank
Agreed.
you both. And thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share this time with you and our brothers and sisters. So thank you.
Very
Absolutely,
much.
absolutely. I echo Mark's sentiments. Past Grand Worthy Matron Smith. It's definitely been an honor to get to know you. I've seen you in pictures and I've seen you from a distance in Grand Session,
Yeah.
but I've never had a chance to have a conversation, or I don't even think I even said like had a chance to pass you, say hello. So I feel bad because I haven't taken that step, but I'm happy now that we've had the opportunity to have this conversation. I learned a lot about you as a sister, as a leader in the organization, and definitely got some gems from you. I love the passion and zeal that you brought to the chapter, the order, both back in '88 all the way now in 2025. Still having that passion and zeal for the order is commendable, and all the work that you're doing and all the work that you are looking to do in the future. So, as you said, this is a volunteer organization. The fact that you are still willing to volunteer your time after all these years is definitely something that's commendable. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and
Yeah, we
definitely
ain't gonna
looking
tell you
forward.
what we were doing in 1988.
Hey, 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 you was a little bit older than me, so you was probably getting into more mischief than I was. So I ain't gonna worry
But
about
we also do have the plans, in my head, about some other sisters to come and, if they're willing to come onto the show. And I did get hit by a couple of sisters. They're all watching, so shout out to the sisters that are watching. Even you can learn from brothers, and
Mhm.
brothers can learn from sisters. So it doesn't
Yeah,
make a difference. And even if you're not in an organization, you can still get leadership tips from this. So we appreciate all the viewers that's watching, and
definitely.
Thank
looking
Viewers
forward
you.
is
to the
watching.
future.
Please
Mm-hmm.
like, subscribe to the channel, like and subscribe to the episode, subscribe to the channel.
Mm-hmm.
Please share this episode with as many people as possible who you believe will gain some insights from what we discussed today, whether they are in the craft, in the order, or not. We believe that everybody can learn from this show, this platform, and so we like to say that the world needs leaders, and leadership starts with being able to lead yourself. So it is impossible to lead others if you cannot lead yourself. So please take the information that we have discussed today and try your best to apply it to any area of your life where you think there might be some value. And until the next time, God bless.
Bless.